on. I guess I wouldn't even,
Yeah, I don't know, for some reason, that's where I
know
had.
nothing about it.
Seen, but
One of the other items brought up at this meeting was...
So it sounds like that's kind of going to be resolved, and you'll deal with
Yeah.
the construction manager and the architect, and if they want, whatever they want to do, they'll do them.
Right, but we
I
want to
guess
make
if
sure...
we're not paying for it,
make
buildings
sure
aren't
it's
going to be
correct,
choosers,
though.
right? Yeah, we want it to be correct, I guess, as far as the look, they can, they're going to want it to look nice, so I'm fine with them going with whatever they go with then.
Okay.
Everybody else agree with that, or?
Yeah, we want,
Okay. Okay, Virgil, go ahead.
And one other item that was brought up was to reconsider the stained concrete floors, and then we didn't really have any decisions made at this meeting other than we talk about it in the future. And I would like to just defer this until Thursday when there is an owners committee meeting of the whole, and we're going to do a tour to maybe look at it with all of us together in the new building.
So is that the intent then, to not only just have the tour be committee of the whole, but to have the board there for the entire meeting?
Yes.
Is that what the board would like to do then?
okay, Thursday at,
I think that's how we planned it.
I won't be there on Thursday.
I know we scheduled the committee of the whole
at
for the purpose,
10:30.
because we knew we were all going to go walking around for the tour. I wasn't sure whether or not that was going to roll into the meeting, and I'm fine with either way, so whatever, if everybody wants to just kind of stay around for the meeting, then we'll just talk about it then, Virgil, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I think that'd be, and that's how the notice was posted,
Yeah.
that it was an owners committee of the whole, that there'd be a tour first and then the meeting.
And I'm inclined not to support the change, but as I mentioned the other day, if 3 other people think they want it, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, so.
So-
Why don't we just have that discussion then?
I'm confused about the times, so
10:30 is when the tour is, and then the meeting is immediately following.
following that, okay. Yeah,
Charlie, are you able to make that on Thursday? And you won't make none of it, or just the tour? Part of it, or
No, I won't make the tour. I might be able to get there later.
what time would you say the tour is, about 45 minutes?
Probably half hour to 45 minutes.
Okay.
So if you get
Yeah,
there about 11:10 or so, you can,
yeah, I have another commitment about 12:15, so.
okay.
Yeah, just don't wait for me.
Don't worry, we won't.
Okay.
I promise you.
All right, good.
Okay, go ahead, Virgil.
One of the other
We're kind of
items-
interrupting here, I apologize.
That's all right. One of the other items brought up was about security points, and Russell's Lock and Key will be handling all the keys and locks for the facility. And subsequent to this, there was a meeting with Russell's Lock and Key to kind of coordinate that effort. And then the last item brought up was a loop system bid that still needed to be done. And again, this was back in January. We did open bids for the loop system last Thursday, and those will be presented next Tuesday. And the bids came in very good, $229,000, and our budget estimate was $280,000. So those bids came in good, and those will be presented next week.
Okay.
That's all I had for the January 7th meeting. If there's any corrections other than the ones noted already, let me know.
Yeah, and then on the 4th, we got to do the same thing. We got to cross out committee, or we got to, of the whole, we got to cross out, and then we got to cross out the 3 absent commissioners because they were not absent. They just weren't
Okay.
supposed to be there, so.
We'll get those changes made.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 7th.
I'll second it.
Motion by Potter, second by Delight. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. Then the next set of minutes is the February 4th owners meeting. And the project update, again, Ken Francis and Chris Larkin were there from Kraus Anderson. And at this time, they talked about the status of the electrical and mechanical was about 75% complete. Overall, the project is about 60% complete. There were some change orders presented, total of 6, and all of them were under 20,000, so those did get approved at the meeting. A furniture update was given at the time. We had received 3 quotes for Herman Miller Furniture, and the one quote was from a company that does refurbished furniture, and it was substantially less than the others, so we did seek approval to move forward with meeting with the vendor and moving forward at that time, and that did get supported, and we've since met with that vendor, and it was timely because now they're needing to know that information. We have another meeting this Wednesday with the furniture vendor. And then again, other than that, the request to revisit the stained concrete in some of the areas was brought up, and that we can address Thursday when we go view the building.
And virtual that also was on the top where the sign-in sheet, there was not a committee of the whole.
Okay.
Also.
All right.
My observations, and I'm certainly not a construction expert by any stretch of the imagination, although I've been around the trades a little bit, I think things are going very well, and I appreciate the efforts of our staff. Two of them are in the room here today with the project. I think the project is impressive in scope and what's going to be able to be done there, but I think things aren't gold-plated and none of that sort of thing. I think we're doing what we need to do to have it be a functional building, and I appreciate you guys' efforts in that regard.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, Commissioner Swatsky. And the team we have is really important in this. I think the architect and the construction manager have been critical in the success. They've been very good to work with and looking out for the taxpayers' dollars. And like I said, it's a nice facility. It's not lavish by any means, but it's coming together very nice.
Mr. Chair, one of the things we talked about at the beginning was to make it, functionality was the key. We don't want the MnDOT building in St. Paul, no imported Italian marble with bronze statues everywhere. We just want functionality, so Brang, Steve, you all can get their work done in an efficient manner.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bridget.
Anything else?
Well, are there any other corrections for the minutes? Otherwise, that was the summary of the February 4th minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 4th meeting.
Motion by Commissioner DeLiden. Is there a second?
There, but I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks. Okay, here, that brings us down to committee minutes. And I apologize, I did not ask you, Chris, but if you could take both the personnel and Ways and Means personnel first, that's
Right.
what it looks like.
All right, Mr. Chair, the Personnel Committee met on February 24th. Members present, Houston, Sawatsky, Hess, Hawkins, Jans, Dahl, and Schaefer's. And we had two items, but the second item will be at the Health and Human Service meeting next week, or whenever we meet again. The request was to hire a full-time diesel mechanic, and the vacant diesel mechanic position since September is due to a work comp injury. The employee is currently on medical restrictions and working in another role. And based on the current workability report and possible permanent restrictions, the employee may not be able to perform the majority of the essential duties of the position. So the recommendation was to approve the request to hire a full-time diesel mechanic. And with that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Houston,
I'll
is there a
second.
second? Second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
All right, and the second item, Ways and Means Committee met on February 24th, and the members present, Swatsky, Hewsum, and Virgin was in for Kelly, and also Bob Hevola. And we discussed the motor pool year, which was laid over from 1/13/2016 meeting. And Virgin provided the information on the actual cost toward the end of 2015 to operate the motor pool. And with the total cost, including the depreciation and the insurance, the cost per mile was 58 cents. And that's extracting out the startup cost, and then the cost per mile decreased to 53 cents. Costs were then shared with regards to other departments that operate their own fleet, and based on the data, Virgin collected from 2010 to 2015, the assessor's office averaged 50 cents per mile to operate their fleet of 5 vehicles, and the planning and zoning department averaged 46 cents per mile in that same time period with a fleet of 6 vehicles. And the depreciation will make the cost per mile fluctuate, dependent on when the vehicles were added to the fleets and their repairs of the older vehicles. So the committee agreed that the information was good, and at this time feels a motor pool is a good resource to have. However, acquisition of new vehicles is not recommended. So the recommendation was to continue to track usage costs of the motor pool, usage and costs, and to kind of decide what the benefits are. But the economics at this time do not warrant acquisition of new vehicles. Staff can pursue the addition of a vehicle to the pool and replacement of vehicles through the vehicles from the sheriff's auction. So with that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Burrell, any further discussion?
One thing that you may want to look at in the future is to put in human services into this also.
We
We
did
talked
have a
about that too,
discussion.
of, you know, of checking theirs out, and
I mean, if we want to, if, we should look at
Yeah.
the whole,
They
county
are-
as a whole.
exactly, and we talked about, you know,
It'd be curious also to find out how the sheriff's office, which is kind of a skewed, but it'd be still interesting to see how that works out per mile too.
What they,
that would be.
their cost,
And of course, we recognize that certain departments are gonna need vehicles regardless of the cost per mile, and other ones,
Yeah.
we need to, you know, and what we really found out is that if you buy a brand-new vehicle and you take the depreciation into consideration, you probably got a loser going on, you know? But if you can get a vehicle for little or no cost, and therefore have little or no depreciation, you know, it gets competitive.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment too, when the federal government sets the mileage reimbursement rate, we were expecting it to go down a lot more, and I was just thinking, it may not be going down because the cost of vehicles
Vehicles
are
are so
higher,
high.
the cost of repairs are higher, so that might be offsetting the drop in fuel costs a little bit, you know, because I mean, realistically, I mean, if we're sitting here and it's costing us 50 cents and 46 cents, I mean, it's right in the ballpark with what the,
Well, it is, and we were surprised
we
by
said
that
that
it was
maybe
that
the
high.
federal government really is more accurate than what
and we're
we're,
giving them credit for it. yeah.
Although I suspect now, this year with gas prices being lower than last year, although they are beginning to creep up again, but I think they're probably maybe about 30, 40 cents lower than where they were last year at the same time. You can expect that 53 cents to be, you know, into the mid to high 40s probably, perhaps by the end of the year
I
instead
say,
of
but then
53.
the cost of maintenance and
Vehicles
cost
are-
of cars are going up too. so. And they're probably designing the cars to break down more, so keep marking.
Well, they actually seem to be more reliable, but I'm joking.
All right.
Okay.
Depends on the brand.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Schedule committee of the whole meeting to discuss current public works building.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had put that item on there. This kind of arose through discussions I had with the department heads that are currently in that building, and will be continuing to occupy that. As we're getting closer to our new building getting finished, I think it'd be good to kind of circle back and revisit the plan, transitioning forward. Last year's budget discussion, we had some casual talks about maybe moving another department out there. There's also some funds that have been put in the capital improvement plan for some updates to that building, and also some discussions have taken place about any changes in changing over the space that's out there for the two departments, so.
And there will be leftover dollars from the new construction project to accomplish some of these goals and objectives here, so perhaps in its entirety, perhaps. So we should have money available to make some necessary changes, but, okay, when do folks have available here? We're looking at a couple weeks from now on a Tuesday, maybe at 10:30, or?
couple weeks or even next week or,
Couple of thoughts I had, perhaps at the end of the month, either the 22nd or 29th, following the board meeting, knowing we don't have a meeting on the 15th.
The 22nd, we have a public hearing on solar farms at 9:30, don't we?
that would be during our meeting.
Yeah, during our meeting. Oh,
But in
after
case for some
we do it.
reason it takes time, though, but anything on the agenda on the 29th that look like it would extend that meeting, or otherwise we can go for that?
Does not
one?
look like it at this time.
How about we do that one at 10:30?
Nothing, the 22nd is, we have a board
What's
meeting.
the other one, if we, that solar
The 29th.
farm?
We
Yeah.
could, yeah.
Second was a
could
solar.
be.
Because then where do we want to have the meeting at? Do we want to have the meeting out there in case we need to walk and look around, or?
I think that would make sense. to have
Might be
it
a good
out there.
idea. I will talk with the folks out there and get it scheduled for 1:14 out at.
Should we shoot for 10:45 if we're doing it out there, just to kind of make sure we're more inclined to get out there in time instead of having a bunch of people sitting around waiting for us? 10:45 maybe?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule a committee of the whole to discuss current public works building for Tuesday, March 29th at 10:45.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Potter, second by Houston. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Let's see here, we've got some months with 5 Tuesdays. I don't know if we want to go to the end or not, but I guess if people have definite preferences right now, we could, but
Mr. Chair, for May, I think it'd be good to have Tuesday, the 31st, be the one that we cancel, because Memorial Day being the day before, it might help
Okay.
with staff and everything else for the weekend.
everybody agree with that?
I agree with that one.
Okay, so the 31st, we'll make a motion for no meeting in a minute, so do we want to do any other ones right now?
Let's do August, November right now.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, November might be the easier one to,
Is there one that jumps out in November as the obvious one?
yeah, Mr. Chair, looking at November, Thanksgiving week, the 22nd, that might be easier for staff and to cancel the 22nd.
Do we know when AMC, is it on the 5th and 6th or the
And that's what we talked
12th and
about last
13th?
time.
We know we don't want 2 in a row.
Right, exactly, and I think that's why we had,
Do we know, is it the 5th and 6th or the 12th? and-
I'm pretty sure it's 5th, 6th.
Okay, so then we want to meet on the 29th
We do,
then?
we do.
Okay. So let's see, the 22nd, 15th, 8th, and the 1st. 22nd's fine with me.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to cancel the November 22nd board meeting.
Actually, well, let's figure, we haven't made a motion on anything yet, so
August,
we'll
yeah.
maybe kind of do them in a group here.
So we did, we made 31st, and what was the other?
November 22nd,
Yeah,
and then we got August is the other
August.
one here.
The open book.
When's the fair?
I'll maybe raise one point if I could with November, just to be for consideration. Traditionally, we have gone to one committee date in November and December. Just a caveat that if we would do a committee meeting that third Wednesday, the 16th, any items that would be approved, if we canceled the 22nd meeting, would have to wait till the 29th.
That's fine.
Just a word of caution, notice, whatever.
Okay, so back to August. When's Labor Day here? That's
The
not
9th
till
is
the...
Polka Day, I see on my calendar.
Yeah. I guess I don't have any preferences.
why don't we do it the middle of the month?
16th?
What you want?
Unless we just wait a couple months from now and see if something comes up that people just have a preference.
We could bring it back with August, maybe.
We don't need to, you know, come back in a couple months and do it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, August, the middle of August, August 16th, there is a crime lab meeting at 2 o'clock Sherburne County on that Tuesday.
Okay, you're right.
So that would be,
Calendar.
so that might be not good for that one. But we can wait for August for another.
Yeah, why don't we just wait a couple months in case somebody has something come up, that way they can work around their... So I guess what we need is a motion to cancel the November 22nd and May, what was it?
31st.
May 31st, is there a motion to that effect?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Houston, second by Deline. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries unanimous. I-94 West Corridor Coalition funding request. Mike, you gonna take that?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chair. Thank you for, and thank Lee for getting us on there. We're asking for a little bit more funding because we're in a stretch here where we're trying to put enough pressure on the legislature and MnDOT to push these forward and actually get St. Michael to Albertville stretch, but we still need to get up to Monticello. And so far, I'm getting reports from MnDOT that it's on the radar, but we need to push to make sure it's in writing, not just on the radar. And good news with this coalition is looks like we're going to have Maple Grove adding to this. which is nice. In the past, just for the rest of the board, we've done 8,000, 7,500, and 7,500 in years past. The reason for going to 10 is because we need to make a lot more concerted effort if we're going to try to get more funding for that Corridors of Commerce or 94 there. The bridges over County Road 19 are slated for 2021 rehab, and we're trying to make sure that that would be the latest date, if not try to get earlier to get that stretch from Albertville to Monticello done. We are going to probably have to do a little bit more lobbying effort with Joe Kelly and Lynette Filiuzzi in that to try to convince them that this needs to be on the radar now. So we're just trying to push this forward and get ourselves on there, so as long as there's momentum, we want to keep going.
Mike, they're asking for more from the counties. Did each of the cities put in more this time?
The city of St. Michael went up $1,000. They pitch in $8,500 now. And basically it was per capita. Monticello got in, and it was based on 50 cents per capita. Maple Grove asked if we capped it at 10 because they have a lot of people, and we agreed to cap everything at 10,000 to get in. And basically, it's for the efforts to coordinate to get people together. We had a meeting last Friday. We had Commissioner Zelli out with the legislators and everything to just keep the momentum going on this, keep it in the forefront. The annual meeting had the urbanized boundary district we had a little over a month ago. Members of the Met Council that we have to deal with the urbanized boundary, most of them were not aware that we had a nuclear plant in Monticello. That was not too much of a surprise, but why are we pushing? This is why we're pushing this, because 94 is our evacuation route. And we're trying to make sure that we push hard to get what we want and get it on writing. So that was the reason for that. I believe St. Michael, and it could be wrong, theirs went up by $1,000 last year because of the efforts trying to get this thing pushing forward.
So Maple Grove's paying $10,000 in 2016. I haven't seen the money, but they said they came and talked about joining the coalition that because 610 is up because they have issues down there related to 94, because this is from Maple Grove to St. Cloud, and we've got them all the way up to St. Cloud, and I don't have a current one for what the St. Cloud, not only the Greater St. Cloud, but also the Chamber of Commerce pitched in also there. Just trying to make sure that we're pushing hard, because we've seen Highway 14 have a lot more money in their kitty, and they've been really doing well as far as getting money for 14 coalition. We're just trying to make that a hard push to get this going too.
14 like down south, 14?
Yeah. They have they're a little bit more seasoned than we are, but they put in a lot more money towards their effort. They actually send their lobbyists out to D.C. a couple times a year. We don't do the lobbyists out to D.C. We concentrate right here in St. Paul.
So this is for 2016, right? We haven't
Our year.
agreed
This year.
to anything for this year at all.
This is the invoice for 2016 here, excuse me, yes, 2016.
2016, yeah. Last year we gave them 7,500.
Last year we gave 7,500?
Yep.
Well, it definitely is going to benefit, and with what's going on over in Otsego, and if that new facility comes to fruition in Albertville, we're definitely going to need to have 94 expanded.
The reason for it is we have the momentum now, just keep pushing it. And we keep pushing hard. Monticello is it, and I had meeting with the 7W committee, and one of the MnDOT representatives understands that, it's not on the writing, but it's in the conversation that the third lane to get to Monticello here now is feasible, doable, plausible, and I just want to make sure that it gets in writing there, so it doesn't get they tell us that, but don't put it anywhere, because sometimes if it's not in the plan and not in writing, like the Minship plan, then they want to try to stick to that and nothing happens.
I'll make a motion to increase our membership investment this year for 2016 to $10,000.
I'll second that.
Motion by Delay, second by Housum. Virgil, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I can just give the board an update on this. At a meeting I was at yesterday, I sat next to Terry Humbert, District 3, and he did give me an update. I asked about I-94, and they're currently hiring a consultant to do a environmental assessment study for the piece from St. Michael to Albertville, and I suggested it include that second leg of the intersection at 19, and he agreed it makes sense to do that at this time. They have funding to do the environmental work right now with a consultant.
Who would pay for that second leg of the intersection? Because last time we kind of got dragged into that just because of the necessity of it, even though we didn't necessarily think it was ours.
Correct. That's all unknown right now. Once the environmental work gets done, he's hopeful the funding would follow, and that's part of this legislative session, is to keep the momentum going to get corridor commerce money to help fund the next piece from St. Michael to Albertville.
I mean, there's $900 million in a surplus. It seems to me some of that money would be a great thing for that, and not trying to come and ask Wright County for $2 million worth of property taxes.
Right, so that's not determined yet. It's hopeful that this legislative session, this corridor of commerce will be there again, and that this would get funded. There's a lot of momentum for it right now, and even with MnDOT, they're gearing up for this to happen.
So Virgil, can you just just so I can kind of do a comparison here, and I know that I-94 has had much greater success lately, and 55 has kind of taken a back seat. What's the status of the 55 coalition, and how much money are we giving to them each year? And what's being accomplished with that money?
Yeah, right now, it's the same sort of thing. The money that each agency along 55 is contributing, it goes towards, there's a facilitator, SRF is facilitating the meetings and doing some.
Well, I understand, but they're facilitating and nothing is being accomplished from my perspective. I mean, I drive up and down 55 and they're looking any different than it did a few years ago, and yet every year we're giving money to, at some point in time, I get tired of giving money.
Yeah.
I mean, with I-94, I gotta admit, you guys are showing some results here, and that's impressive, and I don't wanna be in the scenario of I-94 where suddenly we don't have any, we've made some great strides, and I don't wanna be given $10,000 a year just to tell the state that the road needs to be improved when the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, right, and that's a good question, Commissioner Swatsky, and the improvements on 55 have been smaller. Like the Settlers Parkway was part of where there was,
55.
I think we've gotten over $5 million.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, that project, I guess I
There's been
wasn't
little
necessarily
small pieces
correlating
along
that,
the
but
way
okay.
in Hennepin and Wright County, and there is a legislative proposal this year that we're bringing forward to try and get some more funding for 55. So there, it's not as obvious the need, and there's not the big push to redo 55 right away.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, you know more about it than I
Yeah,
do.
on the 55 coalition, most of them been safety, intersection safety projects that's been done in their spot. Senator Osment and Representative Hertaz are going to be running, because Highway 55 is also included under corridors of commerce. And the proposal is to go from Arrowhead, which is by where the low ran, the Public Works, out to 19 at the Loretto, to try to get that leg constructed. All the environmentals, everything's done, just that push to try to get that. And with the corridors of commerce, obviously 94 is at the top of the list because we've been running hard, but there is enough support with the legislators there, and we also have the support of Met Council because in 10 years they want to do a bus rapid transit from Loretto in. So they have the support too, and that's might be enough to carry that next to get 4 lanes out to Loretto, because it's a nice natural dumping site for the traffic going north towards Hanover and south towards Independence.
Is dumping the
Mr.
correct
Chair.
term, though?
Huh?
Is dumping a correct term?
Dumping, yeah.
You should say where Arrowwood is. It's not Arrowwood up north. It's
Arrowhead.
Arrowwood, yep.
Little Ram
It's
Public Works
Right where
building.
Ram is, yeah.
It's where the
Regina.
4 lanes go down to 2 lanes, and that's the pinch point right there. And that would also include the intersection at 19, because we want to get some more projects out here, but our projects out here have to wait until our cities out here, Rockford in particular, gets done with their financial and their new plan, what they're working on. How are we going to implement that on the 55 on the Wright County
32,
side?
right, yeah, that's one that's kind of been a moving target
Yeah.
with the city.
Of
But
course,
to answer your
County Road
question,
3 also is part of the deal.
Commissioner Swatsky, we've been contributing $1,000 a year. The initial
Okay.
contribution for 10 or so years ago was 10,000, along with Hennepin, and since that time, it's been 1,000 a year.
Okay, so they're, okay.
Hey, what about Highway 12? Because I know there was another accident on Highway 12. Was that on the Wright County side, or was that the Hennepin County side?
Hennepin
not
County.
familiar with-
Hennepin?
County Road 92.
Yeah.
At Maple Plain. is
I was
where
going to make a comment. They have another safety meeting, Highway 12 Safety Coalition meeting on Thursday that I'll attend.
And that one's a,
They had a program, a thing out, they called it 12 for 12, so 12 months on Highway 12 with no fatalities, and so far we're on track to have 12 fatalities, because we had 2 already this year, so.
and there's, the big difference between 12 and 94, as I see it, with 94, everybody kind of agrees what the solution is, it's just a matter of the money. With 12, it always gets bogged down in what should the solution be.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I mean, even if they got the money, then people are fighting over what to do, and that makes it
And then,
more
and I
challenging.
don't know what the logic behind it was, but then with that bypass lane, they bypass Long Lake, and it's just 2-lane. I mean, so why didn't they, you know, at least plan that section when they put a lot of money in that, made it 4-lane, you know, so now it's,
Plus, it's confusing.
I don't know.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Advisory Committee and Advisory Board updates, Commissioner Burrell.
Mr. Chair, I did attend last week the joint ditch meeting down in Hutchinson. There, Bob Hebelah and Jan Edmondson, our ditch inspector Mike Young was also there. And this is a group of counties that share joint ditches. And one of the things that we discussed is how like when there's an expenditure made on the ditch where it covers the entire, a joint ditch, so it might be in 2 or 3 different counties. We kind of distribute the money up a little different than another county. We do it on a per 40-acre basis, I think it is. Some other county does it on their valuation. And Bob said that is something with they have a state ditch committee that he's on, and that's one of the things that they're working on, so we get a little bit more consistency across the boards on the assessments on a joint ditch. And that is about it. And I said I'll have the Highway 12 Safety Coalition that I'll be going to later this week. Oh, and we had a lot of fun yesterday. You're going to
We
talk
did.
about.
You can.
Commissioner Sawatsky and I and Commissioner Hewson, along with Marion O'Neill.
We forgot, we left our traveling trophies at home, didn't we, Charlie?
Yeah, we
Trophies.
Well, we should get one. This is the first time that the commissioners ever won, although they split it up a little different. But Marion O'Neill came up short on the dollar amount this year. The shopping spree is, I think it's supported and put on by the Farm Bureau, but we have 45 seconds to get as much groceries as we can. We had 2 teams, and at the end, when it's all added up, Cub Foods donated that same amount, whatever, and it was just shy of $1,500 that we had. Cub Foods wrote out a check to some area food banks for that amount. Farm Bureau donated, I want to say it was...
Well, they did the whole 1,500 or whatever that we got in the first place, Farm.
Oh, yeah, they donated the food plus cash that totaled the value of the food, yeah.
And then the dairy.
And
then
the Wright County Dairy
Wright County
Association
Dairy
gave just
Association,
box after
Many-
box after box of dairy
Many
products.
hundreds of dollars, I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was.
So anyway, we had a lot of fun, and but now Chris and Marion did win on the total weight, though.
Weight.
They actually,
That's
they got
because we're so
more.
strong.
Yeah, the gals lifted more stuff than we did.
We had about, how many more?
Their roll was
60
all
pounds.
60
items
pounds.
with moisture. Every single thing you had moisture to it, and most of what we had was dry goods.
And
So that was the difference why they gave
So
us a
they
nice
give us, you know, one lane, and then we can go into the next lane. Well, in 45 seconds, you can't go too far. And so it's as much as you can kind of lift and get into your cart, so we,
I did disagree a little bit with Commissioner Sawatsky, though, when he went after those ramen noodles, though.
Well, I didn't go after them.
Not much
I grabbed it, as soon as I grabbed it, like, what is this? They weigh nothing, And there was nothing. But rather than put it back on the shelf, I threw them in the thing and I moved on to some more expensive items.
I was lifting, heavy cases of mayo and setting them in there, but
We had a good time and everybody there, and I think it's great. We have actually, Love Inc. started a food shelf in Howard Lake, and they were one of the recipients of this. They were just overjoyed with that. And I also wanted to thank the Delano Food Shelf, because they were actually targeted to be one of the recipients this year, and they were very gracious. They said that they're actually, a food shelf is doing real well in their area, and so they forgave whatever, went ahead and gave that to somebody else, and I think that's where the startup one in Howard Lake.
It went to Buffalo, Howard Lake.
It went Buffalo, Howard Lake, and then the Wright County
Community Action.
Community Action went down in Waverly, yeah, they were the three that got it all, so they, literally, the $1,500 worth of groceries we got, they split them up on 3 different carts, and then as Charlie mentioned, Cub was gonna contribute an equal amount, and then the Wright County Dairy Association had box after box after box of dairy goods, butter and cheeses, and
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so, anyway, that's it for me.
Oh, it's nice. It's unfortunate that we have to have those programs.
The need is continuing to grow. The director of the Buffalo community.
And it's proof that government doesn't have to do everything, though, that if people given the opportunity will step forward and help out other citizens, and government doesn't have to do everything, other folks will step up and help out too.
And then, Mr. Chair, I wanted to point out too, besides Cub though, there's other area grocery stores that donate to these food shelves regularly. When something is coming up where it's getting close to expiration, they are donating this too. So a lot of the grocery stores and businesses do that as well. So it's a good way for everybody to gain from it. So.
Yeah, but at Super America, they throw their stuff away. Their day-old donuts, instead of selling them or donating them, their breads and that sort of stuff, all goes in the garbage. The sandwiches, every time I see them throwing that stuff away, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And it actually goes in the garbage. Doesn't get recycled, goes in the garbage.
Target, Walmart, same way, if there's a dent in the camp, they can't donate to the food shelf because they have to throw it right in
They did say Walmart is one of the ones that does give a lot of stuff to the shelves.
If
I think
it's
that
got a
they-
dent, they can't do it.
Don't they sell dented stuff? They used to sell dented stuff on discount, but they can't sell it no more?
Liability.
It's, well, since Charlie didn't talk about it, we did have a meeting last week regarding trying to come up with some ways of,
I just figured it would come up in minutes.
but yeah, well, I don't know. We're still trying to figure out ways to get it so that residents can have a few chickens, out in the country.
Couple horses, whatever.
A horse or two.
We're still working.
A herd of cats, milking sheep, those sort of things. So we're still trying to figure out a way to make it work and still be within the state rules and stuff.
When I was campaigning, I ran across a farm with one dairy cow. Yeah, just for themselves.
They milk it, yeah. There's one over by
It didn't milk itself.
There's one over by Winston that does that too.
But, yeah, it was like, yeah, that's interesting. I guess I've never seen, the first time I came across the one dairy cow operation, but.
And I do have one
He has a $250,000 automatic milking machine and no.
No, I think they did it like this.
Tomorrow, Jamie and I are going to a meeting for mental health issues around the state in Maplewood. So I'll hopefully have some information regarding that next week. And I also have a question regarding River Rider. Haven't heard anything lately on that.
We haven't either.
I haven't really heard nothing either.
It's in state's hands right now, isn't it? The MnDOT.
I thought that was all done.
We haven't totally.
I don't think that I don't know that they've completed their audit.
Oh, haven't they yet? Well, they're so busy, auditing other things that, they don't have the time.
Yeah, I guess, we haven't met in a couple of months now, and we weren't sure, last time we met, we weren't sure that we were gonna meet again. We were hoping that it would just be a matter of getting a check mailed out, but we weren't certain on that. So,
There's no indication when they're going to be sending the check or,
my only suggestion would be is that I would expect it to be sooner rather than later. I mean, I would expect it within weeks as opposed to months,
Okay.
but I mean, as I recall, there was well, the thing we were expecting some sort of a rebate from the IRS, and I'm not sure if that has something to do with gas tax or what. It was, and that was really this main thing as far as coming in relative to the books, and then the other issue at hand was the state's audit, so. Charlie over at
Elk River.
the Black Law Office in Elk River is in charge, so I mean, anybody's more than welcome to inquire with him if they have any questions too, so.
Will it be 2 years in July? Or will it
Yes.
be 1 year?
2.
It'll be 2 years in July.
Years in July.
But the buses stop operating, it would have been 2 years, yep. Yep. I would agree, it's taken longer than we expected, and last night, Chris and I had a mental health center board meeting, and our executive director was there in his role. He was there the month before, but he hadn't actually started his position, and last night I was very impressed with his executive director report. I think he was,
Very impressed with him.
in the short time he had been there, he had recognized some things. He showed that he was able to see things, and
Take action.
clearly explained to us what he saw that wasn't perhaps ideal, and some of the things he's going to do to improve those. So like I said, I think the board was pretty impressed with our first meeting with the new director, and I suspect sometime in the next few months he will be out to visit with us and introduce himself at a mental health center board meeting and answer any questions we may have of him regarding him or the operation there. So, but again, I think, like I say, I think the board was impressed with him. The financial report wasn't the best for a few various reasons, but I think that's going to pick up again next month. But like I said, we were impressed with him, so that's all I have. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple items. First off, 7W committee was last Friday, along with I-94 with Delhi, but the 7W is the one in front of us right now. A couple things going on. TED program, Transportation Economic Development, which Administrator Phil Kearns sits on that panel. He was noting a lack of people submitting projects. In fact, no projects were north of Princeton were submitted in the whole state. And so we're trying to get with the cities that, because it has to abut a state trunk highway, trying to get them to, okay, if you got a project, let's start bringing them forward, because people are not submitting for this, and they've got money that's set aside for the TED program. So hopefully next time around, we actually have a few projects.
Seago bid, or
It'll be on
had
a state
that,
highway.
did they?
It's got to be a 101 is for Otsego.
Yeah, and I thought that they were talking about submitting a,
They did not.
oh, they didn't?
Well, they're not north of Princeton, so they weren't one either that did?
No, because there was only, these are the projects that were,
Oh, you got
that were
one.
approved right there.
That was approved, but
There wasn't that many more submitted. Phil Kern explained, there wasn't that many in there to begin with. They were, anticipating a lot more applications, but they just didn't do them. Okay, 7W on this specifically, the funding for Trailblazers for a purchase of another bus got approved, and we were the recipient of $2.3 million for construction, major construction on County Road 19 from Lamplighter Drive to 70th Street to extend the 2 to 4 lanes, which is nice, good news to come in. So it's successful in that. We're the single largest project in the district with that, which is good. The next item is the county parks submitted for that trail to be paved from Buffalo to Montrose, and it scored the highest on the rankings. It was not only the least expensive project, but it scored the highest on the rankings. And kudos to Mark Matthijssen, those for packaging that the correct way to get the score. They did note that every time it rains, it costs a lot of dollars to redo it to get it to use it, and people were noted that they weren't using the trail because it wasn't paved. So I'm anticipating really good news on that, because it scored real high on that, and that decision will come up pretty quick, but the funding request was for like $296,880. Our local match is 74 on that, but that'll be good news if that comes, because it's there, pave it, people might actually use it. So liking that. Also, yesterday I attended the pre-legislative session with Mary LaHammer from TPT Public Television, and it had to do with what to do with the $900 million budget surplus that was authorized to go to that yesterday. It started off as taxes and transportation, but it quickly morphed into, instead of talking about that issue and what we're going to do, and I submitted questions to try to get answers, it quickly morphed into, what do you think about Trump's chances of winning the White House? It went completely off the edge, and in gun control and unionizing of daycare, and it's like, and none of the questions that were transportation related were even asked. She went through the things, and they were kind of put to the back, and it's like, and you could see the frustration with the people there, because it was quite a full house there. It's like, and we were there anticipating what were the panelists, Senator Hayden, Senator Han, Representative Thiessen, and Representative Dowd, what are we going to do with this $900 million, or what were your thoughts? And it never got to that point, which was kind of disappointing, because that was the reason for being there. So it was kind of, I got to inform Mary LaHammer that I was not overly thrilled with where that went, because I thought we were here for this focus. And so I don't know if it'll probably be on TV one of these days, but it was not what was supposed to be, not what was billed to be.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Other than that, also yesterday I toured the Senate office building, the new one. It's nice. Just to let you know, the Republicans refused to move into the building. Still is a protest on doing the building and how they went through. It does look nice. It has nice hearing rooms. It's functional. It's built.
Yeah, they said they were not going to move in until after this session, I think is what I had read.
So that's it for me.
The only thing I have, in addition to what we've already talked about, is we had our law library meeting, got our annual report last week, and they're very happy with their new location on the second floor. And it was kind of funny, 3 of us basically walked in and said, "Oh, how do you like your new digs?" It's like, why we're all using the same term, but it kind of struck me as funny. And the law clinic patrons, when they have the attorney there for an hour a week, they had 327 patrons, and total patrons for the year was 4,168. So it's just been it's a great service, and we have, in addition to, well, many pages of the law books, there's also a lot of help with the computer service and navigating those kinds of things. So it's a great service. That's all I have.
Well, there being no further business,
Mr. Chair,
Charlie?
just want to make another announcement too. We have JD 14 ditch meeting, so Chris and Mark and I believe it's going to be right here this afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yep.
And then we have capital improvement too at 10:30.
That's just Mark and I.
I'll just read it, it's okay.
Yep, that's not of the whole, it's just,
Oh, it's not, oh, okay.
it's regular committee, right?
That's why I didn't have it on my
I
calendar.
actually
Okay.
put it on my calendar too.
Are we in here or back there? Back there?
I think we're back there, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There being no further business, we are adjourned at 10:09 a.m.